everybody that this is Otherworldly, the Changing Times, Changing World show. And our guest tonight is Lyrion ApTower, who is a talented, well, she's a poetess, but tonight we have her on as a diviner, soothsayer, a person who is here to explain Cleromancy, which I'm not sure I pronounced properly.
Well, I don't think it really matters. I think it's, yeah, Cleromancy is fine.
And I think it's one of the more natural aspects of the overall category of sortilage, which is tossing random things. It's basically a pre-technical random number generator or random symbolism generator, which allows, and I think it's a very, very natural witchy type thing. Lyrion,
yes,
does very well and at many local fortune-telling venues.
Yeah, well, one of the things I want to do is to talk about the many fancy-mancies.
Spicy.
And how did I get started in this? Well, I figured when since I was a priestess and a witch, I had to know something about divination. I had to. So I figured, okay, well, witches all do tarot. So
keeping it from moving that forward.
That's okay, it's okay. Maybe I'm not standing. So witches have to know how to do some sort of divination. So I said, okay, we'll go to tarot. The first deck I picked was the Heindel deck. I don't know if any of you know the Heindel deck, but it is the most complex, complicated.
Oh dear.
Yeah, forget it. It's not the one for a novice diviner. So, okay, so what else could I possibly do? And then I realized, you know, for years and years, I have been collecting things. Things have come to me somehow. People had at Twilight Covenant, people just came up and said, here, this is for you. I don't know why, but this is for you. And they gave me something and then they walked away. And I kept finding things that were on the ground. I opened my car door and there was a bone. These are the symbolic items, symbolic things that hold some significance. And so I've been involved in Cleromancy. I figured, well, there it was looking right at me, and it said, you've been doing this for years, you just didn't know what it was called. So what is that doing? What am I fluttering?
I think this is not, it's not you, so it must, don't worry about it.
For once it's not me. So I have gathered up a bunch of items that have spoken to me. And when I find something, a small object, and if things had worked out well, I would have had a spread, be able to hold a spread here for you, but that's not the way things are working out right now. So these are.
Can you pick them up and show us one at a time?
Yep, that's what I'm doing right now. I have created a field, and it's just plain, it's blue velvet with a line running diagonally. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so that is what's placed on the table. And also, the other thing that's important is this beautiful little creature. It is something I found in nature, and she said, put me with your bones and I will speak to you. So it's just a piece of wood. It's like a burl, but she also looks like a pregnant woman and a mother and an old crone. So all three in one. So the bones that I've collected, and I haven't kept count, that's not important, but I have kept them in my grandmother's black handkerchief, and that's where they remain. When a querent comes to me, sorry, when a querent, a client or a querent comes to me, I will ask them to take something of theirs, like an earring, like a ring, something of theirs that has their energies in it, and I will ask them to put it into this collection of bones, which includes something like, let me see, I have a small shell, which represents emotional balance, emotional health. All these things, when they come to me, what I do is I take them, I evaluate them, and I sleep with them under my breast, so I can understand what they're saying. I will also have, from different cultures, different religions, I happen to have the BVM, which is the Blessed Virgin Mary. She's wonderful. She's also, because her arms are outstretched, she is also the Queen of Pentacles, and she gives. So when she appears in a reading, this is something that is very gracious. There's a giving, a gift, a helping hand, because the Queen of Pentacles, as you know, helps to encourage, educate, support, fund, and so on, to uplift whatever the situation is. So she's wonderful when she appears. I have from yet a different culture, I have a scarab beetle. Okay, and that scarab beetle, it represents a small person, a small little thing, usually the querent, who feels that they are faced with a huge problem. And that's the little scarab beetle, or the dung beetle, you know. The scarab beetle is pushing the sun across the sky. The dung beetle is pushing a load of elephant poop, and it's a little tiny thing pushing something very large. So what it says is, you're going to be faced or asked to take on something that you don't think you're going to be able to do, but guess what? You can. So that's that. I also have, this is a ring. Am I fluttering to you guys? Am I fluttering?
Yeah,
Okay. You know why?
kind of blocky, a little bit blocky.
Okay. This is a ring, and it's a simple ring. This is the ring of partnership. Now, partnership can mean your husband, your wife, your spouse, significant other, or it can also, you can be in a partnership with many, many different people, or like you can be in a partnership if you've got to have your refrigerator repaired. You're in a partnership with your refrigerator repairman. This came, this simple little ring proved to be rather unusual. When I had a querent one time cast the bones, she had put in her ring as a significator. Remember, I told you by put in your ring, an earring, or something that represents you. She put in a ring, and lo and behold, when she cast, after she mingled the different bones together, and when she cast it on that navy field, lo and behold, her ring was jammed inside this ring. Now, I had never seen that before, and it was one of those things. I'm quite frankly, I don't know how to read this. I tried to make phrases or put together a picture based on what I'm looking at. And by golly, I I couldn't figure it out, and I was trying, and then remembered, okay, maybe the client knows what's going on. So I said, do you have any, can you give me any input? And she says, well, would it help you to know that I have been diagnosed with multiple personalities? So there was her ring in partnership with herself, which I thought was absolutely amazing. So that's how I can read some of these things. I have a tooth that I actually dug out of a decomposing coyote. That was wonderful. Just a truly amazing experience. This coyote, as you may know, in many different cultures, coyote is the trickster. And when this shows up, I will urge the querent to take a look at what's going on and what are you hearing? Does it sound true, what you're being told by others? Is it making sense? Because there could be somebody saying something or leading you in a certain direction that you just need to have your antennas up. So that's another one. Huh? Yep. So these are, we've got that. Oh, this, let me see. This is one of the bones, and it is a small, thank you. You know,
Dinosaur?
help me out. Wait, yeah. This is it's a small little charm thing. It's a dinosaur. Dinosaurs represent your ancestors. So if I've got this near other bones, it's like, pay attention, there's something going on here. Either you're getting a message from your ancestor, or there's a reason why you need to be in touch with an elder. Doesn't necessarily have to be a blood relative, but it could be somebody who you look at as an elder. Let's see. This is another very interesting one, and it's odd. This is a piece of broken china. This side, when it presents this side on the field, this is a full rice bowl. If it presents this way on the field, it's an empty rice bowl, meaning good times or hard times. In Polish, you'd say trudne czasy, close to the bone, okay? So again, where things appear on that field above the line tends to mean things that have not yet manifested. They're there. Do you want to bring them into your life, into your reality? Do you want to manifest them? Okay, think about this. Nobody says you have to. It's a wise man who rules the stars. It's a fool who's ruled by them. Same thing applies here. Whatever we're looking at on the board is not necessarily cast in concrete. It is something, it's a snapshot of what's happening at this time. And it's up to you. If you see a problem and we're saying, okay, you know, I'm seeing that you may be having some problems with your electricity. You may be having some problems with, I had one lady, I was very blessed that I listened to the voice, the goddess within. And I said, you know, for some reason, I'm having pain in my breast. And I said, may I suggest when you leave, just go to your OBGYN and check it out, get a breast exam. And next time I saw them, they were overjoyed. Big kisses, embraces, because she had gone, she listened to them, and they discovered a tumor in her breast that had not been diagnosed up until then. So that's one of the things I have to constantly be listening for. Where are the bones in conjunction with themselves across the way? Are they far away? Is one sitting on top of the other? is one above the line, is one below the line. If I'd like, when I ask the clearance, please shuffle the bones, you know, in the scarf. Please shuffle them back and forth until you feel that they're completely shuffled, and then lay them on the line. And as you noticed, I told you there's that diagonal line. Lay them on the line. Don't just have one lady, bless her heart. She didn't quite get the idea. She just took the whole thing and dumped them right off, all of them in a huge pile, one on top of the other, on top of the other. It was impossible to read, and so I asked her if she would care to try it again. So, how am I doing so far? You guys with me? You understand? Everybody here? Thumbs up?
I
Good.
think we're following it.
Say?
I think we're following you.
Oh, good. Oh, good, good, good. I have, there are things in, oh. And what? Yeah, I don't have to explain every single one. This is, again, we've had the wolf from a Native American, wolf bone, coyote tooth from Native America. We've got the cross, Christian cross, and that's obviously, you'll never guess this, burdens. Then we've got the scarab from yet another culture. So this is a multicultural, and here Mexican, small Quetzalcoatl. Yep, sensuality, sexuality, joy, and renewal. So when this guy shows up in a reading, I have to look at what else is around there. So is it sensuality? Could it be sexuality? Joy might be, or is it renewal? That either you need to go through a self-evaluation, your partner needs to go through a self-evaluation, your house needs to maybe get a refurbishment, renewal. So that's, all these things kind of play into it. So it's not just looking at one at a time. I also have raccoon tooth, and raccoon tooth will argue and say, watch out, especially in the workplace. Are your ideas being co-opted by someone else? So you've been working on a project for a while and you're kind of proud of it, and then you come to the meeting and somebody says, yes, I'm so glad I was able to lead that project. I'm so glad that my idea came through. This is somebody that is co-opting what you have done, stealing what you've done. Stand up for yourself. Also, stand up for somebody else who you know who has done the project and somebody else is trying to take it away. So, excuse me, I think that was done by John. John did this project, you didn't. So there are, I have, again, many Nancy's. Are there any questions so far? Oh, by the way, the one of the things that's important is Cleromancy is ruled by Mercury. It's the god that overlooks, and as you may or may not know, Mercury is the messenger of the gods, as well as being a trickster. Yes, so you have to kind of make sure you're finding out what's going on here.
Lyrion,
yeah.
Why is the line diagonal? I've seen a lot of things where it's above and below, but you're
Yes.
doing above and below, but it's diagonal.
No. Okay, I will lay it like this with the pointed end towards the querent. Okay, they'll lay it on the line and then I read above or below.
Ah.
Like, yeah, so it's not like this, it's like this. And one of the other things that I did with that with that field is I stitched the other side, by the way. If any of you are into runes, I have runes on the back. Okay.
Ah,
I am not terribly facile with runes. JD is better with runes than I am. Yeah, yeah. But with this, on this field, one of the other things that I did, just to make sure that we're doing it right, I inserted, before I stitched it together, I inserted some small, a bean or two, a rose bud. Let's see, there were a few small things that would help when the bones are cast. It might just give somebody a little bit of a tilt one way or another. Not my doing, but the doing of the gods through this slightly irregular surface.
How many pieces do you have in your bone
Thank
box?
you so much, Jesse. I think at this point I've got about 32, but they change out. And when I find that there is a rune that I'm not, that is no longer speaking or no longer relevant, or that hasn't really come through with something head on, bang on relevant, then I'll swap them out. And
you fire them?
no, I don't fire them. I lower them
Laid off.
There's a line from.
I'll give them a vacation.
Yeah, kind of. I thank them, like even when I throw out an old pair of socks, you know, you just don't throw it out. You put it in the trash and you say thank you for your many miles of service. That's the same thing that I do with this, is I will put them aside and say thank you for what gift you have given me, but right now I need to, you know, find something else.
I bet some of them just disappear right out of the bag sometimes.
Yes, there have been two that have, you know, I've been at an event, I've read at an event, and lo and behold, when I come home, it's like, well, wait a minute, where did that one go? And where did that go? And the answer is, it's like the one sock in the dryer, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It has gone where it needed to go at the time. So let the under the heading, the broad heading of Cleromancy, like I said, there are many fancy mancies. And when we were, when Raven and I were doing our class, we did chapter 11 was called divination. And this did a lot of research, and when you're teaching, you know, that's when you really learn, is when you're teaching. So there are, and I'll just run through some of them. I'm not going to give you the whole list because you'll fall asleep. But there are some very interesting and odd fancies. Electromancy, not elect, electromancy. And that's when you put a black cock, a white bird, or a gamecock, a bird, or a black hen. You put them in a thing, and you put a seed around, and as they pick out the seed, the letters that are underneath will theoretically spell out some great fortune, great future for you. Let's see. Allomancy, which has to do with salt, which is where we get the salt over the shoulder. You know, something that spills, whoops, over the shoulder to ward off evil spirits. Let's see.
Graphomancy.
Pardon me?
Graphomancy.
I'm sorry.
Graphomancy?
Oh yeah, that's the handwriting.
I do that too.
Do you?
Yeah.
You know that?
Well, yeah, I got books on graphology. You even gave me one, and I've gotten, it's sort of grown from there. I did a whole graphology thing for my audio team at work, and Yeah, and it was more like not aside from the slants and up and who's below the line and how far the dot is over and how high the T is crossed and all that stuff. There's also a feeling you get too. I do
That's it.
from reading it, and something says, you know, ooh, that person's having a tough time, or that person's just faking it, and it's sort of combined with the science of it, with a gut feeling that you get something in the back of your head saying, no. That's what this means.
When I was doing a show in at one of the fairs starts with S, and I can't remember what the name of the town was, but it was a 4-H fair, and there were several of us we were with the Abracadabra Troupe, and I had this guy come in and sit down opposite me. It was like, okay. And that's where all the feelings start to come in. You know, you could see these little waves of feelings of things. And I said, well, first off, this is before we cast any bones at all. I said, first off, I said, you're usually sitting on this side of the table. I said, you're a seer. I believe you are a traveler. Whoa. That was right on. And I also told him to take very good care of the woman he was with, because she was going to prove to be pivotal in his future. Let me go on to Cleromancy is using the skull or head of a donkey or a goat. That's not all that popular. I've never seen anybody at any of the Magickal Marketplaces or at Celebrate Samhain doing that.
It's kind of hard to schlep around a donkey head with you wherever you go.
That's true. That's true.
I've tried it. I got kicked out of Publix for it.
Oh, hush your mouth, child. So, Cleromancy is lot casting. Now, we were taunted while we were doing this with yet another group. A group of good Christian souls decided that they were going to tell us where we were wrong. We had a tarot reader, we had a spirit reader, we had an aura photographer. I was doing Cleromancy, somebody else was doing angel, whatever it was. There we were. And these good Christian souls decided that they were going to come over and tell us how evil we were and that we were in league with the devil and yada, yada, yada. You've all heard it. Well, that's all kind of very interesting, except that Cleromancy is mentioned 48 times in the Bible. And if the book of Proverbs, Leviticus 19:26, Deuteronomy 18:10, and so on and so forth, in the book of Esther and Chronicles and so on. And a lot of the castings of Cleromancy, of the lots, do you have any idea why they would cast the lots?
Looking for a scapegoat, probably.
No, not something else. No. They were casting lots to see who got the clothes. They were casting the lots according to the Bible, at the foot of the cross. They were casting lots to see who got Jesus' clothes. So there you go. Let's see. Oh, dendromancy, and that's for you druids out there. That is using oak and mistletoe and the rings, dendro. That's using oak in rituals. An early form of fancied by the druids. Let me see. Graphology, analysis of character through handwriting studied in ancient times. It was given a psychic significance. So there are a couple that are my absolute favorites on the Mancies. And one of them is hippomancy. And that would be by the neighing or the pawing of a horse. I'm thinking of doing that. I've got to contact Kevin for Celebrate Samhain and see if I can bring a horse in so that we can, you know. Thank you for laughing. Okay.
So I was going back to the whole donkey head, if that's what you were going to do.
the other one is, wait a minute, Cleromancy. There's one having to do with interpreting the hissing of molten lead.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now that's fallen out of favor, strangely enough. First of all, because the practitioners were dropping from inhaling the fumes from the lead. So now it's gotten into where they're melting tin. You sort of melt tin and you pour that in cold water, and the patterns that would
Yeah.
make is interpreted. There's also very similar to candle magic, where you take the wax and you pour that in. I would submit that the candle magic has its roots in that it's a whole lot easier to schlep around a candle than it is, either lead or a bunch of tin.
I think the melted tin became a New Year's tradition in some countries too. I seem to recall it in both America and England.
It is, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you mentioned that, because
Lead was common because it was so easy to acquire.
Mhm.
You could dig it out of the windows because they used it to hold the glass
Right.
of the windows.
yes,
And around the turn of the last century, tin was available to melt and put in molds to make toys, like toy soldiers.
and also candle holders.
Hmm.
Hang on, molybdenmancy. That's
That
it.
would be the lead.
Molybdenmancy. That's that
That's
is in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and they did pour it into the water. And not only would they look at the actual shape of the thing, but they would also shine a light on it and see what kind of shadows that cast. And that was something that was done usually around New Year's. It was a New Year thing for a prognostication on what was coming up in the next year.
Well, New Year is always a liminal time. So
Yeah.
No matter where your New Year is, spring, fall, winter, whenever, New Year is always a big fortune telling time.
It is, yes. Even well, I thought around here I know witches get dragged out of the closet at Samhain.
Yep.
They don't care about you. March 14th, they don't care. Samhain. So let me see. There are from different countries. Oh, Bellomancy or Belomancy, I don't know how to pronounce it, but there are a couple of very interesting ones with that. That has to do, and this is an old one, it has to do with you stand a group of, and I don't know how many, I think it's like 8 to 12 arrows, sticks. You stand them in a group and then let go. And how they fall will indicate what direction the traveler needs to go.
Huh.
It seemed to be, where am I? There we go. Yeah, that would be a direction to take. Okay. So, let me see.
There's
Oh.
I Ching too.
Well, I Ching is another one. Yeah, I Ching is highly popular, and that there are several other things that I Ching, and wait a minute. Yes, they're called sorts, SORTES, and that is like the I Ching using different books, not necessarily the official book, but you could do it with the telephone book. You could do it with your local paper, and as long as you're putting yourself into the right mode and into the right mindset to open up and to allow the voices, the gods, the inspiration, your own intuition to come forward, you can come up with some really amazing results. So the other one was rhabdomancy, and that's how arrows or sticks fall. And that's the same thing that I was just mentioning with a different name. By the way, in case you didn't know, the Eastern Orthodox Church chose their, let me see, they chose the Patriarch of Moscow, okay, with, by casting lots. So that's the, the church is saying, okay, you're the one. We just picked, the lots were favorable for the Patriarch of Moscow. It is, did I say 67? It's 47 times. I lied, 47 times in the Bible. Let's see. In India, they cast shells. There's also one called the cowrie shell, and that's African. And that's where they cast those and interpret their position, their shapes, and it can be on either a plain board where there's a special dish that is used, and the cowrie shells are cast there. And it's up to the practitioner to interpret those patterns and lines. Anybody have any questions so far?
I was wondering.
I was hoping you were going to cover the. At one point, she had a little baby that she, the little miniature baby Jesus that she had found in her while digging in her garden.
No, it wasn't a baby Jesus. I found it was a tiny penis.
It was a penis. I thought I
was,
misheard. All this
Yes.
time I've been
Difference there.
found a tiny penis in your garden.
Yes, don't ask me. I have not the faintest idea. This is something that, like I said, things come.
When did you find that?
Oh, this was a long time ago, and
My favorite stories.
That obviously represented the male, the god, the aggressive, the protector, all those sort of male attributes, depending on how they lined up with some of the other stones. But also, it got to be not with the women, strangely enough. The women could go, oh, okay, yeah, got it, yeah. The men were very weird and strange, and it kind of clouded the reading with their reaction. So I decided, okay, perhaps we don't need to have this in, and we can represent the male and all those attributes with something else. So that was, yeah. We have the female. Female is with a cowrie shell, as you know. It's shaped, like a woman.
Yoni.
Huh?
Yoni.
Yoni, yeah. Let me see. Oh, let's see. Lived in it. Yeah, where is his name?
I'm gonna have to sign off. I'm so glad to see everybody, but I've got to go feed my kitty. I just saw a cat pop up on a bed. I got to feed my kitty. There it is. Cat butt.
Yep.
And I got to take a shower and get ready for work tomorrow. Hi, kitty. Oh, so cute.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you on sometime in some of the weird things you do.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, right now, not really weird. I just have
now. And any Wednesday, I'm doing this for 12 years now.
Okay.
You think we wait, an inspiration will hit, and you will say, I bet her crazy audience would love to hear about this thing that I do that nobody else does.
I'd love to hear about the handwriting.
Okay, I could do that. Right now it's work. I got a couple of shows on an internet radio station. That's all music, rock, and stuff like that. And
plug, yes. Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead, plug it. Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, but and sleep, and that's all that's as weird and as bizarre as I get, and that's my story for public purposes.
Thank you, dear. I love you. Blessed be, honey.
I love you too, Mama. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
The wonderful effects of what happens when a witch raises another witch.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
Now, I did have a question about the casting and
The what?
reading. I had a question about the casting with your pieces there. do you use all 32 pieces in a reading or just
Yes.
all
Yes.
32 of them?
Yep, all 32
Okay.
of them. And then the other would be the clearance significator, the earring.
Okay.
Thing, yeah. And a lot of times men will come up and they are not wearing a ring or an earring or, hang on just a second. So I have, for them, I have a, over here, piece of feldspar.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so that it is feldspar, right? Yeah. So that's theirs, and I say, because it's one of those things that you can hold it. I say, okay, please hold it. Just think about it. Put your energies into this thing. It's not a metal thing. It's a crystal. Put it in, and then we can go and cast it from there. So yeah, that'll join, the rest of the 32
Yeah.
other pieces.
Thank you.
You have to see how close they are to that piece.
Oh yeah, it's not.
I'd be tempted to say, reach in your pocket. What have you got in your pocket?
Mm.
And I,
Sometimes you don't want to do that. One guy came in and he says, well, the only thing I've got is my key. And I said, oh, that's okay. And so he pulls out one of these monster keychains, he's got 42 chatelaine for some garage or something. And I said, no, we're not doing that. So I gave him that piece of feldspar.
Okay.
So any questions? There's an awful lot in there. All the different mancies and the Cleromancy itself is items come together, they come apart, one lies on top of the other, and that's where it gets very interesting, because many times you'll have 1, 2, or 3 things on top of the other. And so when you need to try to, and this is where it gets really, takes a bit of time, and that is to figure out, okay, so we've got this guy on the bottom. Is it supporting what's going on, or is it just hidden? And that, when in doubt, sometimes it's just plain hidden. When someone will, if an item falls out while they're shuffling back and forth, if an item falls out 3 times, we remove it from the reading because it has indicated, I'm not in this. So, so there's, yeah, is something, oh yes, and there are times when their querent will cast them, and one of the bones, or so maybe way above the line. That's also saying I'm taking myself out, So we want something that is, if it's above the line, it's probably hasn't manifested yet. If it's right on the line, as I'd like to ask them to do, then that means these are the things that you that are coming up, and you're going to be facing these things. So if you have an issue, before we even cast, is there something on your mind, so we don't waste each other's time? I'm concerned about my job. Okay. I'm concerned about my kid. Okay. I'm concerned about my husband, my spouse, whatever. Don't tell me any of the details. I don't want to know that. But I also don't want to go down a road and talking about this when somebody's thinking, geez, the house is burning, that kind of thing. So, let me see, above, yes. And also the other thing, now we've done above, okay. When something is way down below, that's happening at a different level. That's not at, oh, Kat Norris, you're here. Oh, good. That what's happening is that is something that's happening deep within the psyche, and it may be something that you have pushed down, and you haven't wanted to really acknowledge or look at. But this might be the time, if you're here and you're asking the questions, this might be the time when we need to bring those up and look at them as they relate to what's going on your line. So, Was that too confusing? Did you get that?
So you say on the line, are there things that, how do you interpret something that's just a little off the line, just a little above, little below?
Yeah, you got to kind of use common sense here and sort of say, if it's a little bit over or off the line, if it's close and it's touching something that is on the line, then you would make like I said before, you make a phrase out of what's on the line and what is maybe above it a little bit. If it's touching, then they have some sort of a connection there. Okay, so yeah. You're giggling, what?
No, just enjoying the conversation here and your explanation of things.
Well, thank you.
I do think it's very natural. It's coming out of it. It's what those things that come to you and those things and how you interpret them.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of the more natural types of the mantic arts.
Yeah.
I think so, especially if you open yourself up and you don't start to put what you want to interpret on things, but allow the bones to hear. That's one of the things. The bones will always speak. If I'm listening, that's the problem. There's the disconnect here, is if I'm not listening to what they're trying to tell me. And if I decide, no, I'm not going to listen to that, I'm going to put this on it. And that was where, by the way, the woman with the ring stuck inside the other ring. And I'm wondering, what the heck is that? And I had to step back and say, let the ring talk, let the querent tell me what's going on in her life. And that's when she said she was a multiple personality. There was another woman along that line. She came in and she said she did a spread, and it was a very odd spread. There was a lot above the line, and usually I try to get it on the line, but this was above the line. Okay, well, I tried to do some readings, and I said there's a whole bunch of pathways and opportunities and things, and we're going on that way. And I'm getting this. So okay, we're doing well. I don't want to necessarily take their reaction and just keep going with it, and give them what they think they want to hear. But at one point I said, are you with me? How am I doing? And she says, better than I expected. She says, you're right on. She says, here's the story. This was after the reading. She says, I was recently shot and I died and I was brought back. And now I want to know, what do I do with the rest of my life? And I think, oh, well, that's an easy one. That was true. What do I do with the rest of my life? So, I don't, and the other thing too is I tend to, thank God, I have a self-cleaning mind, like a self-cleaning oven, except for some very, very rare instances, like, those two that I just mentioned, or three. Someone will say, oh, remember you read that so-and-so for me and you told me this. And I said, what I say, I tell you, that's up to you. If you want to make a note, fine, that's great. But I don't remember any of that stuff. First of all, it'd probably drive me crazy. Second of all, you don't want somebody who's got something so that they can come back and say, I remember you, honey, you had some real issues. That's not the purpose, and that's not the function of the practitioner. So questions?
Here's another one for you as a professional reader. When you, how do you know you're done? I mean, other than your 15 minutes are up.
Excellent question. So that this doesn't, first of all, usually your time, when you're at any of the festivals and all, you're given roughly 10, 15 minutes. But one of the things that I have is a green marble. It's a beat up old green marble. And when that is cast, that's part of the other bones. When that is cast, that will tell me which direction I'm reading. So I've got the clearance significator over here. And when he or she rolled it out, the ball went that way. I know, okay, then this is the way I'm reading the bones. And I'll usually ask, how am I doing? Are you getting what you hope or what you need? And then I say, that's about all that I can tell you at this time. Remember, everything here is just a snapshot of what's going on in your life right now. So I say thank you. That's about all I can offer at this time. Do you have any questions? Huh? Yeah, the green wall, until I get to the last bone at the end of that, the direction that the green ball has led me. So, anything else?
I have a question.
Yes?
You mentioned when you see things like one on top of another.
Yeah.
To me, for some reason, that always seemed as though it felt like whatever was on top was suppressing what was underneath.
Was depressing?
Suppressing it, yes.
Uh-huh.
Like I did a reading for a gal one time with tarot cards, and there was a figure of a young woman who actually ended up was an employee who was under the queen, which we interpreted to be her, the salon owner.
Uh-huh.
And this gal turned out to be a thief. And there were other elements in the reading that led me to say, I think you need to kind of watch her, be careful, because I think she feels as though you're kind of clamping down on her a lot.
Uh-huh.
And I think this is her way of maybe getting back or climbing her way to the top.
Yeah.
And it turned out that the gal had actually embezzled an enormous amount of money.
Oh, good.
And the salon owner ended up pressing charges, having her arrested and pressing charges. And that was a very difficult moment for me to say to her, I think that the weight of the way you're managing her is really maybe exacerbating the situation.
Yeah. You have to speak your truth. You know, they come to you for what you can see, the messages you're getting from on high, however you want to interpret that. And you have to, this is what it's telling you to tell them.
Yeah.
And it's not easy,
No, it wasn't.
I'll never tell anybody, by the way, you're dying.
No.
But
what was
I will say,
interesting.
go to see a doctor. I would like.
Yeah.
There was one woman, please go home. I'm very concerned about your electrical system. I'm very uncomfortable about that. Please go home and check that. And she did, and she called me and she said, yeah, there was a frayed wire.
Oof. Yeah, and the thing is too, that I think that whatever information we receive, part of the skill that we need to develop is using the words that can open their mind to a new way of thinking about this.
Yes.
Because up until the point when I sat down with that woman, the salon owner, I had absolutely no idea that she had any personnel issues going on. She just asked me to come and do a reading and give her a feeling about the salon. And she had locked the door, lit a candle, lit some incense, and she was just open to whatever was going to come out of my mouth.
Bless her heart. I mean, there you've got somebody that you can talk to. You've got a like-minded soul who will understand. Where you get people in there who go, okay, so you're going to tell me the truth. You're going to tell me my fortune. Go ahead. That's somebody who's absolutely closed. No matter what you say,
Yeah.
no matter what comes out of your mouth, wrong.
Yeah, she had actually seen the pentacle that I wore
Uh-huh.
and had asked me when she was working on my hair, do you read tarot cards? Just out of the blue. And I said, yes. And she said, would you do a reading for me? Sure.
Good, good. Well, you gave her something to think about and a direction that she could go with that to alleviate the situation.
Yeah.
So
She was losing a lot of money.
Hmm.
Ah,
kudos.
see, and this works. You know, people say it's impossible, but it works.
It does. It does. Magic tends to work. You know, we keep forgetting about it. You know, we say, oh, yeah. Until you get into that space and you go in and you open up and you're working something powerful and you're putting yourself into it. And lo and behold, which reminds me, I had a dream. And in my dream, I saw a grid, the number 4. Okay. So then a couple of days later, Joe and I decided to go to the casino down here in Nashua. And I took $5 entire dollars. I put it on number 4. And it paid off $175.
Woo!
So that was, you know, pay attention. Whenever you have numbers in your dream, play them. Somehow or other, play them because you're getting a message from, you know.
Doesn't always work that way.
Pardon me?
I say it doesn't always work that way. There's some people that Mercury is going to say, I'll teach you to gamble.
Well, Mercury's plays a lot with these things and with the Cleromancy, yes. And so Mercury is you honor and propitiate Mercury. Say, you know, please be with me, speak through my mouth. You know.
Well,
Anything else?
if there aren't any other questions, I guess we'll just wrap it up. I do want to invite everybody to the Otherworldly shows people what kind of things will be happening at the conference this in November. But I can't have it once a year. I have to have it every Wednesday. So
Well, thank you so very much for inviting me and allowing me to share what I do. And
I wish the technology has allowed us to see them being put on the board.
Yeah.
I think it would be great if we could get some kind of a little group going and people could send each other with a shark's teeth or acorns or shells or whatever they had access to.
As long as yeah, great.
I do like the way that yours have come to you kind of
A charm
without
swap.
asking. It's like,
Say what?
would you say, Feather?
I said a charm swap.
A charm swap might be fun.
Yeah, charms can be really, I think, very seductive, and you can just go through, yeah, and say, well, oh, here's this, and here's that, and here's something or other else. But I have some that are just incomprehensible, except to me, because, like I said, I put them under my breast and listen to what they're saying. And they, for example, one of my favorites is the bat. Yeah,
This is the latest one I've received. I found it in a parking lot at a grocery store and all the rocks in the parking lot. And this one just called to me and said, I have to go with you.
Yep.
So I've been carrying it ever since.
Good.
I
Good.
think it's looking, so I found that I look at the ground more than I look around me whenever I go anywhere. And it's where I've gotten my best, pieces of for all kinds of things. For me, it's art. I like incorporating things into art. But like you said, that rock spoke to you. I feel that sometimes it's a pod, from some tree that I never even looked at the tree. It was so kind of ordinary, and I say ordinary just because I wasn't paying attention to it, right? So it was like had green leaves and a trunk. Until I looked at the ground, and then I was like, wow, look at what this thing is producing. It's like amazing.
Yeah.
The only downside is I've learned with some things like that, you can't store them in places where critters can get at them.
Oh, yeah.
I think an important thing is to have not a bag of holding to put them in. Make sure it's a portable and not too big, and stop so that you don't collect 2 pounds of
Too many.
Too late.
Joe had this great saying when we first met, and I would go down and look at that. Oh my gosh, look at. And he said she collects for reasons she does not yet know. And I thought, that's perfect. That is just absolutely perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you do. You go and you say, ooh, yes. And
I have little things like that in little wooden bowls all over the house.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that we have now got an hour, and therefore we let everybody go eat or sleep or whatever you do at this time of day, because we're all different. And thank you so much for sharing this and for coming to share it. And we'll see you all. We'll see some of you next week.
Yes. Thank you.